Hi everybody! In this tutorial we will learn how to make basic registration and login screen in Android. For its implementation we will use MySQL server to store users' email and password. To connect to MySQL server and create a new user we will use PHP scripts. The response from the server will be in JSON format. Here in this image I drew elements that are needed. So we have two input fields and a button. If the user is a new user, then when he or she clicks on that button, registration will take place. On the other hand, if the user is already registered, then he will receive a message saying the login is successful or login failed because the password was wrong. Okay, let's go. MySQL server is running on XAMPP local server, so let's go to localhost /php myadmin page. In order to create a database, we will just use this MySQL console and type our code there. It's faster than clicking and choosing from all drop-down menus and so on. So first we need a new database. So type create database and I will name it tutorial number 2. Then keyword use followed by our database name, meaning that hey, select this database, I want to do something with it. Okay, now create a new table, create table users. In the table we need the following: ID of the user, that will be our primary key, so make it not null and auto increment. Then an email is a string, so type varchar not null. Password also string. For its length type 32. Reason for that is because we will use MD5 hash encryption to store our password. MD5 hash is 32 characters long, so that's why we need 32 characters. If you go lower than that, nothing will work then. Okay, now let's just set the primary key and also an unique key. Email is unique because we don't want to have two same emails stored in the database. When you are finished, press Ctrl+Enter to execute the query. As you see, the database has been created as well as the table. Now we need to write some PHP scripts. I'm using an Eclipse IDE. So first create a new project. I named it tutorial 2. Create a new PHP file named config.php. This is a basic file with our database information. Here we will just define this basic information. So hostname is our local host because I'm running XAMPP on the local computer. Then username is the name of the PHP myadmin user. For me it's a default one named root. Its password is not set by default, so no password. Then DB name representing the name of the database. In this case it is tutorial 2. Okay, let's create a new script called connection.php. First we include our config script. Now we have a task to establish a connection to the database and make a reference to the connection so that we can execute queries. Nice way to do this is to create a new class that has a private variable. So let's create a class named dbConnection. Then declare the variable named connect that represents our connection. When we make a reference to this class, the constructor of the class will be executed first. So in this constructor, let's initialize the connection. Type in $this, When we say keyword this, we are referring to the class itself. Okay, so then object operator or simply arrow, then connect. On this way we can access private variable connect through the constructor. Okay, so it equals MySQL connect with our hostname, username, password and DB name. We can also add or die function saying there is a connection error. Alright, connection is established. Now we need to access it from the other class. Easiest way is to simply implement a getter function. So like this, and now simply return the connect variable by typing return this arrow connect. That's it for this script. One more script and that's all. Let's name new script usercontrol.php. First implement our previous script. Next create a new class. I named it user. Declare two private variables, DB and connection. DB will be used to call a DB connection class to establish a connection to the database. Our second variable named connection will simply call a getter function from the DB connection class and retrieve the current connection. These two steps will be executed in the constructor. So type in this arrow db equals new db connection. Okay, connection is now made. Then this connection equals this arrow db arrow get connection. Now in our connection variable there is a reference to the active connection, and with it we can make queries, and that's exactly what we need. So let's first take care of our post parameters, and then we will finish up the class. So first, in order to get everything started, let's make a reference to the user class. Afterwards we ask if our post array contains key named email and key named password, then store their values into these two variables. Next we check. If both email and password are not empty, then we can log in or register the user. Remember that we are working with the basic MD5 hash passwords, so first thing is to encrypt the password. To do that, let's create a variable encrypted password and call this function MD5 and pass it the current password. It will take this string and convert it into a 32 character string. Okay, so if the email and the password are not empty, then let's call a new function named doesUserExist and pass it the email and the encrypted password. Else, if not, so this is the case if user doesn't fill any of fields or fill one field but not the other, then we will print out the message in JSON format saying you must fill both fields. Okay, so we sorted that out. Now let's create this doesUserExist function in the user class. Its parameters are email and password. Remember, the password is the encrypted password. So first we check if the user with this login information already exists in the database. So let's type a new query, select all from users, where email equals to our parametered email and password equals to our parametered password. Then execute this query and store its result into this variable named result. Then we check. If number of rows from our result is greater than 0, that means the user with these parameters has been found. In that case, we create an array named JSON and inside of it we will put an indicator, or to be more precise, an object named success that has a value of greeting message. And simply we will print this JSON array using the JSON encode function. Then just close the running connection. This was in case the email and password are found for the user in database. But what if the user is not found? That means that we have two cases. First case is create a new user, and the second one, if the user can't be created. That means there is already a user with this email, but the password is wrong. Okay, so first let's try to register the user. New query, insert into user's email password, values, parametered email and parametered password. Then again we execute this query and store the result into this variable named isInserted. So if the user is created, the MySQL query function will return 1 and 0 if not. So by following that, if isInserted equals 1, that means the new user has been created. And let's just put the message of successful registration in our JSON array. If not, if the user couldn't be created, that means there is already a user with the selected email and the password for that account is incorrect. So in our JSON array, let's create new object called error with the message wrong password. Okay, after the if-else condition is executed, simply print out the JSON array using the JSON encode function. And as always, close the connection. Also, don't forget to add a header that indicates that the response will be in JSON format. And that's pretty much it. Now, to test all this, I'm using application called Postman to send a post request and get a response from the server. First we type a link to our user control PHP script. Then in its body we must pass the email and the password. Well, let's type something like test. Okay, click send and voila! Success in JSON format. Let's check the database. You can see the user has been created and the password is stored in MD5 format. If we click on send again, then we will simply log in. Let's try it. As you see. And now let's try to input a wrong password. And now we get an error saying wrong password. Okay, so thanks for watching. See you in the part 2 of the video in which we will build Android application. See you.